The Trump administration puts pressure on Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro with threats of land strikes against Venezuela. Joining us is CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane. How are you, Scott?
Hey, good to be here. And yeah, this Venezuela issue has consumed Washington even during a busy month and a busy week.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what is President Trump's message on the strikes?
Yeah, he has not ruled out a land component to the strike, which is a remarkably provocative thing to do both geopolitically and domestically. There are some political concerns back home about another foreign entanglement when there are crises on the home front, like costs, groceries, affordability. But as the weekend begins here in Washington, I think the tip of the spear of this controversy is what becomes of the videos of those boat strikes that were the early and initial front in this battle against Venezuela. There are bipartisan calls for more information about the so-called double tap strike, the second strike after the first one left the boat unsolvable, and also some survivors clinging to pieces from behind. But also, the images of that video could speak volumes about what happens next as the administration tries to continue this front against Venezuela.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask also, just sanctions were made against President Maduro's wife and nephews. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, there's a different type of interaction that wasn't expected weeks ago, wasn't expected days ago, where you now have personal connections being drawn, trying to exact leverage against members of the Maduro family. You can see all of this as an escalating ball here for the administration to deal with. And as we mentioned earlier, this is not just an issue of international relations. There is a political component to all of this. Does the president lose or galvanize support through this fixation on Venezuela at a time when there is some domestic concern about the economy, about tariffs, and about homeland security amid immigration?
Yeah, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk to something that's also kind of in the headlines. Just what is the reasoning behind the White House's plan to require foreign tourists to submit their 5-year social media history to enter the U.S.?
First of all, that does sound difficult to handle logistically, doesn't it? Reviewing somebody's social media history takes time. Doing it at a high volume with a lot of people seems almost untenable how you can get your hands around that. But we've seen this earlier in the administration where they were concerned about some international students on U.S. college campuses, near U.S. universities, who had made derogatory statements allegedly about the country, its government, while here in the United States as an international student. The administration objected to that or used that as a criteria to begin the removal of some of those students. You can see now how that manifests itself with people trying to come to the country where the administration wants to see if they've made derogatory statements about the United States, potentially threatening statements about the United States on social media. How the administration goes through social media is a different issue, but the why, well, the administration's made that pretty clear from the start.
Yeah, and really quick, I wanted to ask, we were talking about this in our newsroom, how could this affect big U.S. events like the World Cup, for instance?
Yeah, will this apply when the World Cup begins next year, when the matches start and all the visitors start? It's such an important component of not just the World Cup in 2026, but the Olympics in Los Angeles a couple years later, is the driving of international tourism to the United States. Will it be possible, feasible, to go through social media records of the many hundreds of thousands of people expected to try to attend World Cup matches? The administration hasn't been clear with the how. But again, we're getting a sense of the why based on what they've done so far this year.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here, Scott.
Anytime.
Thank you.